Imagine waking up tomorrow and every smartphone on Earth has suddenly disappeared. No text messages, no Google Maps, no social media, no online shopping, no camera in your pocket, no instant answers to every question. At first, it sounds like the world would fall apart. But here's something most people never stop to think about. For nearly all of human history, none of those things existed. Yet billions of people still built successful careers. They traveled across countries, started businesses, raised families, made lifelong friends, fell in love, and somehow managed to live full and meaningful lives. So, what did an ordinary day actually look like before the smartphone quietly became the center of modern life? Wake up in the early 1990s. The first thing you hear isn't a notification. It's the sound of birds outside your window, or maybe the alarm clock sitting beside your bed. Your phone isn't waiting for you because it isn't in your pocket. In fact, many people don't even own a mobile phone. Your morning begins without checking messages, without scrolling through headlines, without watching short videos. The day starts with whatever's happening around you, not whatever's happening on a screen. Communication worked very differently. Today, if you're running 5 minutes late, you send a quick message. Back then, that wasn't an option for most people. If you told your friend, "I'll meet you at 3," you simply had to be there. If they arrived late, you waited. There was no typing indicator, no location sharing, no way to know whether they were stuck in traffic or had completely forgotten. People planned more carefully because changing plans wasn't easy. A promise to meet actually meant something. Even calling someone wasn't always simple. Many homes shared a single telephone. Sometimes it sat in the hallway where everyone could hear your conversation. If someone else was already using it, you waited. If the person you wanted wasn't home, you called again later. Long-distance calls could be expensive, and for many families across the world, letters were still an important way to stay in touch. Writing a letter took time. Sending it took even longer. Receiving a reply could take days, or even weeks. Patience wasn't a choice, it was simply part of life. Travel felt completely different too. Today, we follow a blue line on a screen without thinking. Before smartphones, people unfolded giant paper maps. They wrote directions on small pieces of paper. They memorized street names before leaving home. If they became lost, they stopped at a gas station, walked into a nearby shop, or politely asked strangers for directions. Getting lost wasn't unusual. Sometimes it even became the most memorable part of the journey. Photography was slower, but somehow more meaningful. Today, we take hundreds of pictures without thinking. Many are never looked at again. Before smartphones, a roll of film only held a limited number of photos. Every picture cost money. There was no delete button, no unlimited storage. People carefully chose each moment worth capturing. Birthdays, family gatherings, vacations, weddings. Then they waited, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. Only after developing the film would they discover whether the photo had turned out well. A blurry picture couldn't be fixed. That made every successful photograph feel far more valuable. Even music required a little effort. Instead of opening a streaming app, people carried cassette tapes, CD collections, or portable music players. If you loved a song on the radio, you waited patiently for it to play again. Sometimes you sat beside the radio with a blank cassette, ready to press the record button at exactly the right moment. Missing it meant waiting all over again. Owning music felt different because building a collection took years. Finding information also demanded patience. Today, almost any answer appears within seconds. Before smartphones, questions often led to libraries, bookshelves, newspapers, teachers, parents, or experts who actually knew the answer. People couldn't simply search everything, so they remembered more. Phone numbers, addresses, directions, birthdays, appointments. Memory wasn't just useful, it was part of everyday survival. Perhaps the biggest difference appeared during moments of boredom. Today, the smallest pause is enough for many people to unlock their phones. Waiting in line, riding the bus, sitting alone, standing in an elevator. Every empty moment quickly fills with a screen. Before smartphones, boredom looked completely different. Children invented games, neighbors started conversations, people read books, built model airplanes, practiced instruments, played cards, worked on hobbies, or simply sat quietly watching people pass by. What feels like wasted time today often became the beginning of creativity. Family life also had a different rhythm. Dinner tables were filled with conversations instead of notifications. Vacations weren't interrupted by endless photos and uploads. Friends knocked on each other's doors instead of sending a message asking, "Are you home?" Children disappeared outside for hours, returning only when it became dark. Parents often had no way to contact them. Yet, somehow, that was perfectly normal.
This doesn't mean life before smartphones was perfect. Emergencies were harder. Travel required more planning. Finding information took longer. Waiting could be frustrating. Modern technology solved many real problems, but every new convenience quietly replaced an old habit. Waiting became scrolling. Remembering became searching. Exploring became following GPS. Writing letters became sending emojis. Silence became notifications. Today, one small device has absorbed the jobs of dozens of everyday objects: camera, maps, music player, calendar, calculator, telephone, and countless other everyday tools. It didn't just replace those objects, it slowly changed how billions of people experience everyday life. The strangest part is how recently all of this happened. For thousands of years, human life changed slowly. Then, within just one generation, a small rectangle of glass quietly transformed the way people communicate, travel, learn, work, remember, relax, and even spend time with the people they love. If someone from just 30 years ago walked into today's world, they would recognize the streets, the houses, and the cars. But the sight of nearly everyone looking down at a glowing screen would probably be the biggest surprise of all. Because before smartphones, the world wasn't quieter. It was simply looking at each other instead.